For all the information about January 6th, it is rare to hear what the actual ending was supposed to look like, according to the people trying to steal the election. Coup plotters like Navarro and Eastman planned more than chaos. We have the evidence on that. The goal was to claim to prevent a standard certification and then get to a rare but actually possible measure where a contested presidential race would be resolved by a congressional vote. Now, if you're thinking, well, Democrats won the House, so why would they want that? They actually plotted this out. And they knew something that is very relevant to the future of American democracy. When you get this very unlikely but possible measure to resolve a contested election, that congressional vote can be measured by state, where Republicans actually have the edge. So had they succeeded, Republicans then would have had the chance to claim, at least make the argument, that Trump had won by a House vote. Because even in a democratically controlled House, they would, as of January 21, have the advantage when you count by state. Political scientist Clarence Lusane wrote about this in the Washington Post. Republicans have more votes because the vote is done with one vote per state, not districts. Now, whether all of that is immediately digestible on first constitutional explanation or not is, I think, an open question. But my point to you is, and this sometimes is obscured, if you look at all the plots together, there was a mechanism where they would potentially win, particularly if the Supreme Court allowed it. They never got to that point, which goes to what did go down on January 6th. All those failed plots, all that desperation leading to Donald Trump's fixation on one of the last red arrows, getting Mike Pence to attempt a coup.
If Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. I hope Mike has the courage to do what he has to do.
And Trump kept pushing Pence on this as late as January 4th. And those other unlawful plots were reemerging as a kind of pretext, even though, as you've seen, they didn't all work. Indeed, Senate Republicans were trying to get that fraudulent electoral material to Pence on that very day, with Pence's aide pushing back. Don't give him that. That's the elector fraud stuff. This was, as you see on your screen, within roughly 20 minutes of Mike Pence arriving. And over 130 Republicans did vote to object to the certification, including 8 Republican senators. So these different disparate plots are not disparate. They all congeal. And then you have Trump sending what he knew were armed people to the Capitol at a point where he knew he needed something more than all of those other 7 thwarted plots he'd tried.
I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in.
We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness.
The Capitol was breached at 2 p.m. The committee probe has shown this last plot was working. I repeat, it was literally working. The plot was to sabotage the certification by prevention or delay. It was delayed. In fact, law enforcement predicted it would take days more delay before Congress could even certify the vote.
We need you to get the building cleared, give us the okay so we can go back in session and finish up the people's business.
Some people here in the Capitol Police believe it would take us several days to secure the building. Do you agree with that analysis?
I'm not on the ground, but I do not agree with that analysis.
Days, that's how close it came. Now, Congress did not certify this current President Biden on January 6th as provided in the Constitution. It was 3:40 a.m. the next day. But people did wake up with that finality. What if it took longer? What if the nation woke up on January 7th with no certified winner? What if an operational attack did achieve the goal that Trump apparently had to make that last days? And then President Trump at the time would be able to say there really was an open question, even according to the constitutional process, about who won because it hadn't been certified? And what if the Supreme Court then did take one of the Trump cases that it had previously rejected? We've gone through a lot of evidence in our special for you, and I just want to make sure we're clear on what we've learned, what we found. Because all of this starts here with lawsuits. That's the right of any candidate to file, even if they are frivolous. And this elector plot starts in green because ultimately people do have the ability to set up these electors, right? It became criminal later, and we'll get into that. But as you watch this go over time, what you see here is everything that was brainstormed as possibly, maybe, somehow legal gives way to the illicit intent. Congress overturning votes, states overturning votes, Pence overturning votes. Any one of those things has the making of a coup if it cancels an election. Almost sounds obvious. But they are worse taken together. The military seizing voting machines, this key point. This is something that Rudy Giuliani said would land them all in prison. Rudy Giuliani. He's already lost his law license. We'll see what else happens to him. But that is the context, as we showed tonight, that when that fails is the first time the same night that Donald Trump comes in and says, all right, I can't abuse military power. I'm even being told by my most aggressive, lawless lawyers, the kinds that he apparently prefers, that that's not going to work. So that's when I bring muscle to January 6th. But we have had in this country, in our minds, and apparently at the Justice Department, as we reported tonight, a fixation on only looking here, on basically the 6th or the lead up to the 6th or a few days out. And that's understandable given what we lived through. We're human beings, and the 6th was one of the worst attacks and the worst national security crises America has ever faced from a domestic threat, let alone an incumbent outgoing president. The point tonight, which we've built on evidence, not anything but evidence, is that when you actually go all the way back, when you actually understand how this started and how many different plots were pursued, thwarted, warned about, and then desperately doubled down upon, that goes to the criminal intent. Let me put it simply. Taken separately, some of these plots can be viewed like a gray area. Clumsy plans that didn't occur, or the insurrection that exploded but also ended within one day. I'll tell you something. The law makes it hard to pin an insurrection on one speech, as it should. But taken together, you have the evidence of this wider criminal conspiracy with criminal intent running across weeks, if not more. Remember, in court, prosecutors have to prove criminal intent in a moment, just that you meant to do it. This is weeks of that, with lawyers warning these were crimes, especially after the legal doors closed in mid-December when the Electoral College voted. Everything after that, when it comes to overturning votes and installing fraudulent electors, that's that illegal red zone. That's where you see the evidence of several crimes. And taken together, well, this evidence suggests the question is no longer whether there are any indictable election offenses here, but how prosecutors would explain a failure to indict and enforce the law, and how that does risk letting the close call of this documented and attempted multi-pronged coup conspiracy turn into a training exercise that American democracy may not survive.